I'll do the introduction, and then once I get done, invite you up. I'll just go get it.
All right, that'd be perfect.
Well, good evening. We're going to go ahead and begin to respect our time here in terms of starting time. And I want to thank you guys for coming out and being part of this ALICE training. I know it's been around for a while, and it's been in our school system and other places. This is the first time that we here at First Baptist have had it here, and looking forward to the presentation tonight and helping our security team do their ministry, keeping us safe while we're on our campus. So we appreciate you guys being here. I want to tonight introduce you to Mark MaCasslin. He's the Assistant Chief. He's been in that position for 5 years. He's been at the Police Department 25 plus years. And he does teach the ALICE training in our community. And I found out that they are jurisdiction kind of... You can only teach in your jurisdictions. You can't go out and teach it in other places. So he's been doing that for the last 7 years. And so we appreciate Mark. He wanted me to let you know that Ark City was the second district to the agency to be able to adopt the ALICE program here. And they've been doing it in our school system, and a lot of our kids have gone through it, some of our instructors. And so we appreciate their feedback that we've had on Facebook as well. And afterwards tonight, there's going to be a Q&A that we can ask questions of Mark. And if he doesn't know the answer, he'll get back with us as he can. If you do have a question during our question and answer time, we are recording this audio, and if you would just be patient and wait on the microphone to get to you so that the question can be recorded, and then the appropriate answer will be given there. And so if you would please wait on that so we can get that mic passed around if you do have a Q&A during that time. So let me go ahead and invite Mark up. Mark, would you come and share with us tonight? And we appreciate you guys being here with us.
Thank you, Pastor. As Pastor said, my name is Mark MaCasslin. I've been in Kansas City and around Ark City my entire life. My grandparents grew up here, or were born and raised here, and I just had that connection with Ark City. I was actually born and raised in Winfield. I spent half my life there, half down here because of the work with the police department, because they had a residency requirement at that time. You had to live in town. So I moved down here. I don't know if things would have changed if I would have stayed in Winfield or not. But anyway, this is where I call home now. It's where I've called home for 25 plus years, and I enjoy being here in Kansas City. As Pastor said, I learned how to teach ALICE and was certified in it about 7 years ago. Made the second agency in the state of Kansas to adopt ALICE, and the school district was the second in the state of Kansas to adopt it. After I took it to the school board, presented it to them, they decided, yeah, we do enjoy that. We like that idea about giving the students and the faculty, those in the school, and options if something were to happen inside that school. You'll see some slides and stuff that say violent intruder, active killer. We've tried to go away from the term of active shooter, mainly because it does not take somebody inside a school, a residential housing, a mall, or anything like that. It doesn't take somebody in there with a firearm to create an issue. There have been, I keep track of a lot of things. I don't think of myself as a gloom and doom type of person, but I keep track of incidents like that. And part of the presentation you'll see is from a gentleman by the name of Carl Chin, who is actually out in Pratt County, Kansas, who basically, he dedicates his time to putting things together when he's got a book called Evil Comes to Sanctuary. Putting things and data together when there's violent acts that happen on church grounds. So he does a lot of that stuff. But like I said, I don't think of myself as a gloom and doom type character, but I do read a lot of it just to try to keep up on it. Some of the stuff that's happened in the past couple of years, if you look in the Asian countries and everything like that, they don't use guns over there. They have pretty strict gun control. They use knives. Now, you know, people say, you're not going to get somebody that can create havoc with a knife. I beg to differ, because you can. Just somebody simply coming in and saying, I put a bomb in the building, that creates havoc. We have bomb threats at the high school about every 2 years. The times that we find things, since I've been here 25 years, 0. The only time that we found a device after a threat has been made is actually at Sacred Heart Church at the minister's house on his front steps. And it happened to be, I think, a rolled hamburger. We didn't know that. The bomb team didn't know that until they shot it and opened it up. So, I mean, but there was a threat there. And it created havoc because we had to lock down that whole entire block, the school and everything else. I mean, we locked down a big area. So it doesn't take a gun or somebody shooting to create a problem. ALICE was designed, and I kind of move around. I have to move around. If I stand one place too long, I get nervous myself. ALICE was designed by a gentleman by the name of Greg Crane. He lived in Texas at the time. Now he's up in northern, I believe, Illinois. His wife was a school teacher, and come to him one day, back in like 98, 99, and asked him, what do I do? If a shooter comes into the school, what do I do? This is on the cusp of Columbine, and a few others, Jonesboro, Arkansas, and things like that. He says, what did they tell you could do? They told me we could lock down. We're going to hide the kids in the corner, we're going to shut the lights off, and we're not going to answer the door until police arrive. He didn't like that. So he started talking to other like-minded individuals, SWAT people, and things like that, and come up with the ALICE program. ALICE is an acronym that I'll go over here in a little bit. But he said, that's not good enough. I want you to have more options than that. They're telling you you have to stay where the danger is. That doesn't make sense. Building's on fire, do we stay in it? Fireman? Ex-fireman, sorry. No, you don't. The funny thing is, the schools for a long period of time have had lockdown as a protocol for a violent intruder. How many times did they practice it out throughout the year? Up until a few years ago, 0. Now, there are statutes that state that we have to do fire drills every month. Last time a person died in a school, in a fire, I believe it was back in the 70s. But we still continue to train the kids every month to get out if there's a fire. And by the way, the percentages of fire in a school are very, very low. Very, very low. Because you got to the rules and regulations now, they don't want, you can't burn a candle, you can't have this, you can't do that, you can't, They just reduce the risk of it. But have they reduced the risk of a violent intruder? Not wholeheartedly. They're getting more at it now. Anybody hear the news this morning what happened in Kentucky? 2 dead, 14 injured. The odd thing about that shooting was that they had the shooter alive. Majority of the time, we'll talk about it, and then majority of the time, the shooter's end result is they will commit suicide. This time, I don't know all the particulars, and I don't really rely on the news media. I hope there's no news media folks in here. Sorry. Not the best source of information, because the only thing they want to do is get out the worst news that they can as fast as they can to beat the other news crews to the story. And a lot of times, as we know, they don't depict it accurately. So I usually wait until the official reports and stuff like that come out from DOJ or Department of Justice, and look at them, because they actually go in and they study everything and they give their speculations of why things have happened and how they happened, and it's just more accurate. Even though some people will say, "Oh, the government ain't accurate." Well, it's it is as it is. This program was put together a majority by Jason Legliner. I helped him out a little bit, but he gathered some information. And the slides are put it together in November, or December. November, I think, late November. As you can see, Texas, Sunday, November 5th, 26 deaths, multiple injuries when a man opened fire in a small Baptist church. Most churches are designed for what? Everybody to focus right here. Where are the doors always coming in at? Back there behind everybody. So when somebody enters, like this gentleman did, he's got everybody's backs to him. There's nobody to confront him. There's no one to see him coming or anything like that. Does anybody remember when Dr. Tiller was killed? Ambush attack right in the lobby or the foyer. Same thing. I mean, nobody expected that to happen or anything like that, but that presented a lot of the things, of course, for the abortion leagues and everything like that to look at, hey, what can we do to protect our doctors more? And, this goes on from there. California, Sunday the 5th, same thing. Mass was dismissing into the parking lot. Someone opened fire, killing a woman and wounding her companion, who later died. Killer then killed himself. Same day, halfway across the country, we have 28 people. 27 people died. 28 including the killer, but I don't count them. Virginia, Friday 11/3, 15-year-old boy was discovered dead of a gunshot wound to the head in the parking lot of the church. I haven't heard everything about this yet, but it's just church related. Alabama, Tuesday on the 31st, man was charged with attempted murder after ramming a car of others and then shooting once in the parking lot of the church. Pennsylvania, on the same day, a man went inside a church, then came back out, brutally attacked and robbed an 83-year-old woman. This is a little small. It shows where attacks occurred by denomination. Now there's a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 denominations there. There's numbers up there and everything like that, and if you want them, I'll provide them to you. What does that tell you about people targeting a certain denomination? They're not targeting a certain denomination. They don't care. It's not because you're Catholic. It's not because you're Baptist. Majority of the time it's going to be because whoever comes into this church or another church has something, a beef to do with usually 1 or 2 people inside that building. And they know where they're at. And they know that if their end game is to take them 2 people out, why not take a whole lot of other people out? And there's always the conflicts too. You deal with marriage issues, pastor, help counsel people. You get the estranged family member that feels betrayed because they were told something that, it was obvious they knew they shouldn't have been doing it, but they were told something like that by the pastor or the assistant pastor or a counselor or something like that. They instantly get a grudge against that person, but it also bleeds into that church because they feel if the pastor's going to tell me that, I'll probably get that from almost everybody here. So why not just go in and indiscriminately shoot whoever's there, whoever I can. And that's what we believe happened in Texas with the one. But you're looking at this, this is 2009, 2010, roughly 14 or 15 months worth. Number of incidences, non-denominational, 370. Baptist, 345. Catholic, 230. And it just goes down from there. Is it because there's more Catholic churches in the United States? Or Baptist churches? Maybe, I don't know. But they're going into the churches and they're creating harm. They're going into our schools. You have a school here. They're going into our schools and they're creating harm and they're killing and hurting people. I'll get the brief from the DOJ, but I'll never understand it. I'll just never understand why they do things like that. It just keeps on going down. Others, there's Scientology. There was 12 on that slide, 12 on that slide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 26 total denominations data pulled into that. And it goes from other 20, Scientology 2, which makes up 0.1%. Like I said, up to non-denominational includes other known affiliations, 22% of the makeup of attacks. 248 church-involved incidents from 2015 reveals that of the homicide victims, 28 of the 48 were affiliated with the church. Of those 28, 5 were the priest or senior pastor. One senior pastor was killed by police as he threatened his estranged wife with a gun. Again, I go back to the fact that usually if we have an incident at a hospital, clinic, VA clinics have rose in the past few years, decade I should say, where people go into attack. Who do they go into attack? They go into attack the doctor. Same thought process goes into them coming in attacking a pastor or something like that. They're the bearer of bad news, so I don't like that person. They target that person. They find that person, whoever stands in their way, it usually becomes a victim. Equal numbers, 28 of domestic spillover, talking about that estranged spouse coming in. It's going to happen. And it may not happen to the extent that somebody brings a gun, but it may happen just the fact that somebody's coming in to create a disturbance. Okay, that's fine. Either way, I mean, we would like to be called, no matter how minimal it is. Because if it's going to happen here, it's going to bleed out to where they live and other things like that. And we may already have knowledge. We may have already dealt with this estranged spouse. And there may be some paper orders in effect through the court that prevents them from having contact. We're not asking you to narc them out or rat them out. We're trying to protect that other spouse. High percentage time, yes, it is female. We're trying to protect the wife. And that's what the whole domestic violence system is set up around. 42% of the known incident triggers was the domestic spillover. That percentage is similar to the combined average for all the years that I've tracked in these categories, 40%. This is Carl Chin's data. Of the known incident triggers, 57 of the 131 were robberies. Brian's been a police officer for a very long time. We've been friends for a very long time. He can attest to the fact, I mean, he doesn't get to do a whole lot of it anymore, but if call comes, I know he'll respond. Robberies are on the rise. And it's as simple as somebody coming up to you and grabbing a hold of what you have and trying to take it away from you by force constitutes robbery in the state of Kansas. They're on the rise. Times are getting rough. We all know that. The economy's not any better. Trump's support group and everything like that, you know, unemployment's the lowest it's been in years and everything like that. The people that commit these crimes don't want to be employed, for one. They only know a life of crime. And those are what we call at the police department our regular customers. We see them all the time. We have families, and I'm sure that Brian can attest to the fact, we have families in this town that I dealt with their fathers. The officers that are on the street nowadays are still dealing with those people, and now their kids. So it doesn't go away. Let's see. Of the known incident triggers, 113 of 131 were the same three primary sources of deadly force attacks. All others through the years was domestic spillover, non-domestic conflicts, and robberies. Violent attacks on religious property, 86% were the result of one of these three causes. Robbery is probably going to be the purse snatching and things like that. I've not heard of a whole lot of incidences where they come in and try to get the tithing after it's been settled up. It's wherever you store it or keep it if you do. We don't. We keep all the money off our church grounds. We take it to the bank as soon as we get it all compiled and everything. I mean, it's just depends on the denomination or the denomination what they do with it. I mean, if you have it here, that only creates the possibility of somebody wanting to come in and get it. You know what I mean? But usually it's purse snatch and stuff like that. The short attacks out in the parking lot, the snatch and grabs. We put out a lot of information here last half of 2017 at the police department about securing your vehicles, 9 p.m. routine, things like that. It was just last Saturday afternoon between 12:15 and I think 1:30. A lady lost her purse in the parking lot of Kansas Buffet. I call it, about to call it the Blue Cow, but that's what it's been for years. Sirloin Stockade, whatever you want to call it. She left her purse laying on the front seat, and somebody knocked the window out. It took them less than probably 15 seconds to figure out that they wanted to do it, and be gone. And now her credit cards have been used all over Wichita. So we advocate, don't leave that out there. Don't. You're just asking for somebody to break in your car. And leaving the door unlocked is a myth, because sometimes they'll check the door, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just like to break the window out and go. So it doesn't really matter. The biggest thing is just don't leave it in your car. Among attackers, 57 of them were associated, past or present with the church as a member, employee, or volunteer. So if family comes in, what the situation is, family comes in, they get real comfortable and everything. They start having their issues, they start separating or whatever it is. They're associated with the church one way or another. The wife feels that this is a safe place, more like sanctuary. And I'm just throwing that out there. One spouse feels that it's safe to be at church, the other one doesn't feel comfortable at the church anymore because he's been told by somebody that he's probably doing something wrong. needs to take a break, needs to leave her alone, leave them alone, whatever it may be. That's when things just continue to boil over and get worse and worse and worse. And they start looking for a way to get back. So we asked, what is a violent intruder? And we talked about this. Is it only a person with a gun? No, it is not. It is not. But it is a person with a gun, a person with a knife, any person who is wanting to cause mass injuries. Up until a couple years ago, we called this an active shooter. For a person to cause mass injuries, they do not have to have a gun. Spoke to that real briefly at the beginning. It could be anything. It could be a phone call, a simple phone call stating that they plan on bombing this place. That is an active threat. It's your protocol, your decision how you get that taken care of, whether you evacuate or not. We do not make that decision unless we find a device. Then we make the decision for that business, company, whatever it is. Up until that point, it's up to that business. And that's kind of hard for some to swallow. In fact, like Dylan's was the last business I remember outside the school that had a bomb threat. Come in, the manager says, "You're going to make us evacuate." And I said, "We have not found anything. That is up to you. If you want to evacuate the building, go right ahead." My best thought would be, yes, I would evacuate my building because you want to reduce the possibility of injury. But we can't force an evacuation unless we find a device. Question is, what we do if someone in the school, he put the school in here, I'm sorry, church, whatever, building, causing mass injuries to student or staff. Before Alice come out, the biggest thing was lockdown. And that was the only thing. And there's a lot of school districts, there's a lot of businesses that still work under this theory. It's not the only thing. That's why Greg Crane made and put together an ALICE program. It gives people options. No longer are the days we're to do is lock down and wait. We must get away from this school of thought. We must give you the power to make decisions that impact your life. Because we're not there when it happens. We're coming, but it's up to you to make a decision what you can do. He's going to play a little video here.
Lockdown, lockdown.
During an intruder alert, be sure to shut the blinds. Remember to stay quiet. Shut and lock the doors. Move to the wall farthest away from any windows or doors. And turn off the lights. Now you are safe from any intruder.
Safe from any intruder. Is that true? No.
There may be a time when the adults could...
Not me. Not true at all. Is there a place for lockdown? There is. And that's why it's part of the acronym in ALICE. There is a place for it. But the reason that the acronym and this program is put together to give people more options when they are faced with those situations. ALICE is a 5-step program to help increase your chances of surviving an active shooter, violent intruder, whatever it may be. It is a 5-step process. It is not something that you have to do step 1 through 5 though. It depends on what you're faced with. And that's the whole beautiful dynamic of this program, why I like it so much, why it came out, when it came out. Some of you may have heard of Run, Hide, Fight. Similar. Department of Homeland Security come out with it long after Greg Crane put this together. It's still a good program. It still has similar attributes as the ALICE program, because a portion of hide is also just like the L in ALICE, it's lock down or hide. Find a place to hide or something like that, but you run, hide, fight. ALICE just is a little more open. You have the A for alert, L for lockdown, I for inform, C for counter, and E for evacuate. Alert can be anything from alerts you to a possible shooter. It could be the gunfire itself, It could be an alert over somebody texting, could be screaming and yelling, could be a number of things. We conducted a live fire drill, well, blanks, at the high school a few months ago. We've been asking the school district to allow us to do this for quite some time so that the instructor's staff could have an understanding of what gunfire sounded like inside their school. Because there are some instructors that have not even been around gunfire, live gunfire. So we got out to the school, we had them go to their class, and we didn't have any students. It took us a long time. John had asked me about maybe doing something similar here. It's just such an undertaking. We basically had to shut school grounds down. We had to make sure that we knew who was in the building. We did a complete building sweep. We accounted for everybody that was there. We had them, they disrupted all their deliveries and everything, so nobody come to deliver any goods. The students that were there that were helping on their day off had to come into the office and stay in the office while this was going on. The instructors that were there that were not participating in the event had to go to their offices and lock, but everybody had to come through one main door. They could not come through their regular doors that they come through. We locked the place down. We had to know that we didn't have somebody in there that possibly had something as soon as they started hearing us shooting guns off that were going to come looking for us. So we had to play it safe. We had to lock the whole school down. But what we found out is this, and what the faculty found out was we shot off mainly in the south hallway upstairs. The instructors that were in their school classroom or in their classrooms on the north hallway through the lockers with their doors open like they regularly would. No students in the class, no chatter, no buzzing, humming, or anything like that of anything regularly going on in the school at that time in the morning. And they said that the gunshots going off sounded like somebody slapping a book on the table, meaning that they probably wouldn't react to it. Going down to the tech lab, where they have all the welding and everything like that, instructors down there didn't even have any of the machines, fans, or anything like that running, and could barely hear it. And they said if we had everything going, if we had a full class of students standing in here beating on their welding and grinding and everything else like that, we wouldn't know about it. They say that they can hardly hear the intercom when it goes off if they have an announcement over the school intercom when they have everything going down there in the shop. Is that a problem? Yeah, it is a problem. The other problem is when I started in the school district, there's maybe, out of the high school alone, there's maybe about 5 people that knew how to work their intercom. And they joked, they said it's like a NASA launch code. You gotta pick it up, you gotta hit this number, then you gotta hit this number, then you gotta dial in, then you gotta hit another number, and then you can put it in, and then it gets you on the intercom. I'm like, how is that helpful? What are they doing? They're restricting students from getting on the phone and getting on there and acting silly and yelling and screaming and stuff like that. That's all they're doing. But does it take a 10 to 12 digit code to create that security? No, it does not. It does not. And a lot of the teachers, a lot of them didn't have the empowerment or they didn't think that they had the authority to do that. We're trying to change that. We've tried to change that over years and years. I mean, the school district, I praise the school district. They have come a long way to securing our children. They really have. When I first started, my kids were back in Roosevelt. And you know, I walked in and you could walk in openly, that northeast door, you could walk in. And my description to the principal at that time, who was Jerry Crumbless, it said, you give me 2 shooting lanes. And there's no security at the door. Nobody's watching them or anything. But they've changed. The school district has really stepped up to protect our children, and I applaud them for it. Because they have the flaw in their net right now is a majority of students still who block doors open and stuff like that for other students to get into. But we still have a small percentage of the staff that will block a door open for another staff member because they forgot their key at home. And they're just letting the school stand open. So there's still places that we still have a lot to go. We'll get there. I'll throw this out there. Fortunately, I'm hoping that it doesn't happen because we have an incident. I'm just hoping that people will understand and see that we need compliance here before it does happen. Can anything be alerts that you're possible to an active shooter? Could be a PA announcement. You have the security group here, getting around and everything, the first thing to get out is the best thing, because you get it out in real time, you get it out right away and immediately, and whoever's on the security team, wherever they're at, they can start getting that alert out to more people, and they can get, hopefully, an idea what they need to do, how they need to react according to whatever's going on. Like I said, it could be the gunfire, could be a witness. The only thing I caution you about believing, the boy who cried wolf thing, you just don't know. It's just kind of a rough, keep pointing it up there. You warned me about that.
Back that way.
A phone alert, we look at the college and everything like that. The college has the ability right now, Cali College has the ability right now, if you opt into it, that you can get the alerts over your phone, over text, things like that. There are a lot of places that are going to that. We've urged the high school to do that. Usually what we end up having to do, if we have an incident that's near one of the schools or something like that, I just get on the phone, I call the administrator of that school, or I call the main office and say, hey, we got this going on. We've got an armed guy running around or something, whatever it may be. We've got, last time it was a standoff up by Adams, right at almost 3 o'clock. So, we had to take precautions. We had to let them know, because we had the perimeter set around the person, but that doesn't mean as soon as they let kids out, they're going to start walking towards that way. So if we can lock down the school, keep the kids at the school for the time being, it's safer for everybody until we get that taken care of. The phone alerts, though, are a big thing, becoming a real big thing. It's real easy to send out if you have somebody sitting at a computer like that has the people that opted into it. Flash news, could be weather, could be a change in your schedule here because of weather, could be anything, It's a good program to have. Some people opt in, some won't. Some don't get text, some don't like text. It's just up to you. It's up to the organization to do something like that. But the phone alerts are becoming the biggest thing nowadays, because practically everybody has a phone or a smartphone that can get them. Who can make the alert? Anybody. We don't advocate that you drill it down to only one person can make the alert. After it goes through everybody else and it comes to the pastor, then he decides. Because that's going to take a while. And in an active or a violent intruder situation, which on average lasts 8 to 12 minutes, a couple minutes of trying to find the pastor to get him to say, yeah, we can put out the alert, we can get everybody out, you're behind. We're behind. Because one of the first alerts should be to us. We want to get here and help. Now, L in the ALICE acronym stands for lockdown. Excellent starting point. When should the doors be locked? When do you think you should lock the doors? If you decide that, if you're in one of the conference rooms, when do you decide that you lock that door? It depends on where the threat's at. It all depends on where the threat's at. You do it before, during, or after. It depends on where that threat's at. Because if that threat is in that hallway just outside there, my suggestion is lock the door. Barricade the door, find another way out. Is there any rooms in the building, asking you to, any rooms in the building that do not have, any rooms in the building that do not have a window?
I think most of them have.
So, if you had to secure in place or lock down in a room, is there an option for a majority of the rooms that you use on a regular basis you could get out a window if you had to? So the best option may be to lock down, depending on where that, or we'll just go with gunman, depending on where that gunman's at, maybe the best option is to lock down in the room you're at and then find yourself a way out. You have windows all the way around here. And to lock this room down, you're wasting time. In this room alone, I would say your best thing to do is find a way to get out. Because, by the time you figure out something's going on, to lock this room down, unless you have somebody standing at every door that you can lock, you're really wasting time that you could probably actually get people out. Locked doors provide a time barrier. Locks can and have been defeated. Who's been a victim of burglary? Know somebody who's been a victim of burglary? Do locks keep people out? No. If that person that's coming into the church or school, building, whatever it may be, if they know where their target's at, if that door's locked, is that door going to stop them from trying to get into that room? No, it is not, because their intended target is behind that door if they know they're behind there. And that's usually your school teachers, your Sunday school teachers and things like that that are devoted to doing that teaching, or that person knows where they're going to be at. They know where they need to go to inflict the harm that they want to inflict. Locked door usually does not stop somebody in that circumstance, because they will do what they have to do to defeat it to get into that intended target. Barricade, the idea to create a stronghold that nobody can breach, be a harder target. That's something that we go through. I walked through and around the building with John last night for a couple hours, and we talked a lot about the building and everything like that. When this main portion of the building was designed and built in the 20s, we thought, somewhere around there was no inclination or anything like that about somebody coming in and doing mass injury or an active shooter incident. It just didn't happen. It just didn't. You didn't have to worry about that. So the building is designed for what? Open arms, people come in. Sanctuary, come in. It's not a flaw, it's just the way things have changed over the years. Newer building is built a little bit different, built with newer standards and things like that to prevent fire, things like that, safety minded. It would be easier to secure the newer portion of the building than it would be this in any day of the week, whatever. It'd be a whole lot easier to do things with that. There are more safety features built into that you can use than there are in this building here. If you even tried to say, let's lock down, say the building's locked. You have 6 glass doors on the front, you have one over here, and glass is defeated by
Rock.
a bullet. How'd the shooter get into Newtown, Connecticut school? Shot the window out, crawled through it. Door's locked. It didn't take long for him to get in, he just shot it out. So glass doesn't really, I don't look at glass unless you spend the money for ballistic grade glass and have it installed correctly and everything like that with the locks in place. It doesn't do any good. I mean, it's tempered glass. It's made to shatter, just fall apart. That way it doesn't fall down and cut kids. That's the new standard for glass. You have to get tempered glass so it just blows up basically. Used to be, the old glass fall apart, big old shards, guillotine type things and stuff like that. They went away from that because of safety reasons and people getting hurt. Once lockdown is in effect, no one should be allowed into a secure room under any circumstances. Only open your door for uniformed police personnel. And we say that, and that comes out, oh, that's what I dropped. Back off here. Now the other class I've been teaching, I keep dropping theirs, and it just blows up. So it's good I just knocked the back off of that. The reason that we say only for uniformed police personnel is it hasn't happened, but what has been thought about. And this comes from students. What do we do if our friend comes to the door and wants in? Everybody would say, well, we want to let him in. We want to keep him safe. What if the gunman's outside holding that student hostage? It's allowed him in with everybody else in the class. So we say uniformed personnel. You know what our uniforms look like? We're in a smaller town. I know that you probably know some of the officers, don't know all of them, but still, uniformed personnel should be the only one that should be allowed in that door. You're locked in, you're safe, you're secure, stay there. It's a good idea, lockdown. See all that? All that piled up. Anybody notice anything about the door?
Cabinet.
Huh? Opens out. They open the door if it's not locked, but then what do they have to contend with? All this. Statistically, what we have found out if the intended target is not in this room, they're not going to spend a whole lot of time trying to get into the room. Okay? One of the best examples of that was Virginia Tech with a gentleman named Cho that went into the building. The rooms that he could not get into, he passed. The only room that he shot into that was blocked at the door was blocked with the professor laying against it and telling his students to get back. Cho pushed on the door, couldn't get the door open, he shot through the door, killed the professor. The other rooms that he came to, they had locked down. He could not get in the door. There were students in those rooms, but he couldn't get in, he passed them. He'd go into the room that he could get into that was open, shoot people. Walked down around the hallway and did that twice. And the only people that were injured from the rooms that were locked down that he could not get into were injured because they were jumping out of the second story window to the ground to try to get away. So that's not the only incident. That's the best one that I can come up with. I mean, there have been other incidents, but statistically, it shows that if they cannot get in that room, their intended target is not in that room, they will not spend a whole lot of time trying to get into that room. Now, like the shooter in Newtown, Connecticut, indiscriminately shoot whoever he could come across. I actually got to meet the chief and talk with him at a presentation a couple of years ago with the Kansas Association of Chiefs of Police. And one of the teachers, kindergarten teacher that was killed in Newtown, locked all her kids in a closet, and then she went out by herself. And he came in the room, she was the only target. He shot her, killed her, went on. Didn't try to check the room, he didn't think anybody else was in the room. He just came in, he came in contact with her, shot her, and went on. What this is showing basically that we don't want to be easy targets and we don't want to be thought about being easy targets. Information, informing, keeping that information going and flowing. It may not be from the same person that initially made the call or put out the alert. It may be somebody else, maybe somebody with more current information. Because the shooters we have seen in the past doesn't stay in one place to do their shooting unless they're coming in to do a flash shooting, what I call a flash shooting, like the theater in Colorado. He just come in, he come in and he's facing everybody. What was the hindrance for them? They couldn't really see because they had the movie showing out at them. It's just mass chaos. But the majority of the time they move around, Columbine. Another incident where it was just very localized and the shooter stayed in one place was Jonesboro, Arkansas in the early 90s. And by the way, there's the 12 and 13-year-old that shot the people in Jonesboro, Arkansas were released 2 years ago. That makes sense? What they do, they went in, they pulled the fire alarm, retreated back to the woods less than 100 yards away, waited for people to start coming out, and they started shooting people. 12 and 13 years old at the time. Released a few years ago. Does that make sense? No. We advocate should be in plain language. I go back to the school district. I like picking on them, but they don't know it all the time. So keep it here. Anyway, they had all these codes. And they had a big old flip chart. Nice and fancy and everything like that. I call it a good training tool because that's really all it was. Because by the time that an instructor, staff, faculty member, whoever it was, got that and flipped to where they wanted to be to see what they should do, incident was half over. They had all these codes. And when the codes come out, my wife said that she was in the high school at this time and came over to the intercom, but they had a code, bomb alert. Couldn't remember the code. So that's how it was put out. Plain language is what we say, plain language. Everybody understands plain language. There's a shooter in the hallway, whatever you call your hallways or however you distinguish them. There's a shooter in the gym. Is there anybody in this room that doesn't know where the gym is at? So everybody knows where the shooter's at. There's a shooter in the pastor's office. Everybody know where the pastor's office is. You know where it is. That plain language enables you to make the decision and use your options to do what you need to do to keep yourself safe. If you're down in the kitchen area downstairs and it come out that there's a shooter in the gym, what are we going to do? Out a couple stairs and out the door and we're leaving. We're going to play like the building's on fire and we're getting away from it. We know where the injury is taking place at, or the potential injury is taking place at. Why stay and see if it's going to come to us? Let's get out. Let's get away from it. But if we don't have that plain language, if we can't figure out where it's happening at, we're standing around wondering what we should do. And it may be the wrong decision. For a long time, medical facilities, and I couldn't understand this, medical facilities talk about their codes and everything. The hospital had them. Code silver in the hospital. I first heard code silver in a hospital, I thought, it's for a geriatric patient, it's for an older person, they're looking for silver alert. And I associated that with law enforcement, because silver alerts are for people that have dementia, Alzheimer's, things like that, elderly and things like that. So I was thinking that the first thing would be in the hospital. No, the silver alert in that hospital was a gunman. What in the world are you thinking? Flash alerts, PA announcements, but it should be the same as the first alert. Who, what, when, where, how, all the information that you can give. Now I'm telling you this, 5 minutes, I'm predicting between 5 and 7 minutes after an incident starts to occur, no matter where it is, especially if it's in a school, within our county, the cell phone towers in this area are going to be so inundated that they will be shut down to emergency traffic only, meaning 911. You trying to call your kid at the school is not going to work. And we've seen that with the weather-related incident here a few years back. It just locked the system up. We are a small area, and there's a lot of towers around, but if you put everybody's cell phone into use at one time and try to make a call, it's going to inundate the towers. And we've seen it. And the first person that's going to be making a phone call if we have a shooting in a school is who? Who's calling? Parents? I will be. I'll be trying to find out where my kid's at. And my kids have been through this, the whole school district's been through this. They got a little bit more than this from me. So I told them, you get out. You have the ability to get out, and you've got to get out. I want you safe. You take as many as you can with you, you get out. Or if you have to protect yourself, you do what you have to do to protect yourself. And I'll come in there. Use this information to make single or collective decisions as to the best options for survival. Be flexible because the situation will be dynamic. It needs to be moving. Is it one person's decision in each room to make the decision? Do we lock down? Do we evacuate? Do we run? Do we hide? Do we fight? Whatever. It shouldn't be. It should be everybody's decision. Because you're going to get a mixed bag. Some people will want to go. Some people want to stay. If the fight comes to them, they won't want to fight. Some people will fight. Some people will want to go look for the fight, which we don't advocate. But that happens. Inform continued, coming in the gym, plain language again, we just reiterate that. Shooters in the office, shooter in the office. This type of information will help you make these life-saving decisions that we would like you to have. Counter. This is use of simple, proactive techniques should you be confronted by an active shooter or violent intruder and have no other options. Create as much noise as possible. Run around the room and create chaos. Throw things at the shooter's head to disrupt their aim. Anything can be a weapon. There are no rules. This is your life. Fight dirty, bite, kick, scratch, gouge eyes, do whatever you got to do to get out. No rules. Do we have any weapons in this room? Outside of guns. How many hymnals? What do you do with a hymnal? You can throw it. Think outside the box. What else can you do? You take about the middle 50 pages and you roll them up in your hand just like that, and you got a punching tool.
Take a pen and run it in there and run it up into there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If the fight is in your face, there's no rules. We, law enforcement, the biggest thing that we want to do at the end of the day is go home. We want to go home to our family. And that's what I would just advocate you think about. This is not the place, not the time when it's in your face that you want to die. Fight for your life. Because you may not be saving only your life. Maybe saving your family. Maybe just be saving everybody else. You may be the first one confronted with someone and have to defend yourself. Church is more open to people carrying open, carrying concealed. That's great. That is great. If they have the knowledge and the ability, the proficiency to use those weapons, by all means, I'd advocate it. And I've known John for a number of years. I've known Brian for a long time. And I would not hesitate to be behind them or in front of them if we were going after an active shooter or something like that. I'd not hesitate a minute. But my instinct is to tell them that if they're here, only to confront the shooter when the shooter confronts them. Because I would look to them to be, and the security group as being the ones that are going to lead this flock out of here in safety. Does that make sense? I want everybody to go home. I drill it into my officers, you're going home. You're going home at the end of your shift, I don't care. We do firearms training, we do the force-on-force training with the Sims guns and things like that. We get the new officers, they get shot in the arm. I'm done. What? You're not. You've only been shot in the arm. Get up and fight. Shot in the chest. They're done. You got a vest on. Get up and fight. You get in this situation here where you have to counter somebody and use whatever you have to use that you have at your disposal. You don't stop until the last breath leaves your body. Because you may be saving your own life, you may be saving somebody else's. Now, that's a lot to ask for some people. Some people don't want to do that. And some people won't do that. It's all in their psyche depending on how well they, or how much they know about their own abilities. If they don't feel comfortable in doing it, you cannot force somebody to do that. But I always portray it like this. If you are the only thing between an intruder in your house standing on the front porch and your family is standing just inside the front door, how much are you going to fight to protect your family? And I'd be willing to bet every parent in here said, I will fight till the last breath leaves my body. Why not do it for everybody else? Because at that point in time, if somebody comes in this building, I think you probably all consider yourselves family. So you do what you have to do to protect yourself and others. Counter is that. We do not, like I said, we do not advocate that you go hunt down the bad guy. That's our job. It may take us a few minutes to get here, but we will get here. I promise. And we're going to be coming in force. And knowing the people that will be here, we'll be looking at them first as soon as we see them to get information properly. John and Brian have both been trained. I know how they've been trained. I know a few of you that have been trained. But it's not saying that somebody else may not have more information, but I'm hoping that somebody on your security team knows that information and can pass it on to us. Because the only thing we're going to do is we're going to go in. If the gunfire's still going on, we're going to the gunfire. That's what we do. And it's not going to be the first officer that shows up that waits for the second officer. If the gunfire's still going on, that first officer's been trained, they're going. And that's part of our policy and procedure. Because every second that goes by could be another life. If we get in there, the quicker we can get in there, the quicker we can stop it. Evacuate, that's simple. Get out. You remove yourself from the danger zone as quickly as possible. Decide if you can safely evacuate. Do not stop running until you are far away from the area. Reunification points have to be established if you implement this. We went around with the school district, found churches and things like that, other schools, other buildings and things like that, that if they had to evacuate, that's where they reunify with everybody. Some schools have multiple reunification points. We know where they're at. The schools know, of course, where they're at, and they know who is supposed to go to those points. Now, things are going to change because the whole situation is dynamic. Some kids are maybe supposed to go out this door. When they were interrupted and they had to go out this door, they ended up with another teacher or something like that. Every group that goes to a reunification point, our ideal plan, which will be thrown out the window when it happens, our ideal plan is as soon as that happens, I send officers and backup officers to show up to those reunification points, because the other thing that's going to be starting to show up at that reunification point is parents. And if their child's not there, there's going to be chaos. So You need to get officers there. But as soon as they get there, the first thing they do is they find the person that's in charge and say, who do you have and who do you not have? Because they have a list, and they know who they should have. They may have more, they may have less. But it's just for accountability purposes, that's it. Try to figure out where all the students are at. And it'd be the same thing here. You may not know who's here on Sunday morning when something happens, or Wednesday night, or whenever. But if you have some places that you can choose and you can cooperate or get in coordination with it, if you need the police department's help, we would be more than happy to go with you to talk to them. The rec center would be a great place. If you had to, all the way down to school, maybe go to the other school, or even the Central Christian. If you're here on Sunday, they're there on Sunday. They're usually open on Wednesday too. I mean, same pattern of business and everything like that. But if something happened here, you would want to know where you would probably go if you left here. And you would want to know, especially if school's in session and you have classes going on, where they're going to go, where they're going to be, who's going where. And I'm saying you have to kind of mix that bag up a little bit, because it's just like our fire drills. Fire drills are conducted in schools monthly, okay? We have finally got the school district to acknowledge the fact that if there's a fire in the school, there's probably going to be a portion of the school that you can't run through to go outside. So we go out and we help them out every once in a while. We'll tell them they know the fire drill's coming. We will block a hallway off with red cones and paper flares and stuff like that, just make it look like a fire. As soon as they come out, can't come this way. This building's on fire right here. You got to find another way. And you would not believe the astonishment that we get from the faces. Like, they don't know what to do. They haven't thought about it. You have to think outside the box, because school's on fire. If it's in your route to escape, you have to have that contingency plan to get out another way. It's a brief second that it's like, and then they go, oh, there's a door here. Yeah, let's go that way. Good choice. We've had some that have just jumped over the cones. Not going to work. Y'all burn. Get out of the closest door, break the window, get away from the gunman, think outside the box. Same thing. However, you got to get out. If you have a secure door and you have lockdown and everything like that, if there's a window and that gunfire is happening on the outside of that door or down that hallway, I don't want to stay there and see how long it's going to last, or if they're going to make it in that room. I'm going to break a window out and I'm going to go, if I have to break it out. If they'll open, you can climb out and go. Just go. Get everybody out that you can. And there's no rules on blocking a door. The high school scenario that we did several different ones, played out and everything like that. We gave them like 3 minutes to lock down. And then we went around and tried to see what they'd done. Oh my goodness. This was only faculty, all right? And in one of the classrooms, it took them 5 minutes to get the stuff away from the door. It took them 3 minutes to put it there, but it took them 5 minutes to get away from the door so we could get in. The doors that have the actuators on it at the top, it's on the inside, but you can get to, great. Wrap a belt around it, because it has to scissor to open. If you restrict that, it won't open. Large carabiners, they usually slide almost all the way to the end of those smaller actuators. Some of the schools, the newer doors and stuff like that, got a thicker knuckle or hinge point. You can't get the carabiners over it. But you can surely wrap a belt, and what they did at the high school, they bring an extension cord because they just wrapped it around it. But it's what they had to do, what they thought they had to do. Anything to restrict somebody from coming in that door. And then you find another way out if you have to. It's not an A to Z or 1, 2, 3 system. You can use the best option you have for the situation you are in. You may only use 1 or 2 parts of the plan. That's fine. If you need to use all 5, that's great. They're there for you to use. You don't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you 1, 5, whatever. You inform, you evacuate. It may be the fact that the first thing that happens is you're encountered with that person you have to counter. You have to do what you do to try to fight for your life. It may be the point that you just get the alert, you lock down. Next thing you know, the law enforcement's there to get you out. Because you don't know, you may not know exactly what's going on. Depends on how far the alert gets out and everything like that. And that depends on your alert system. We need your help. If you have any information about a possible shooting or violent act, you need to tell someone. You're the only way that we'll be able to possibly stop a tragic situation from happening. If you hear anything, read it on Facebook, etc., you need to tell somebody. We had a joke going around the high school a couple of weeks ago. 3 kids standing in front of the windows down by the cafeteria. They're not the most popular kids. Somebody thought it'd be funny to snap a picture of them, throw it on Snapchat saying, school shooters in the planning, in their planning phase or something like that. Do we have to look at that? Yeah, we got to look at that because we don't know if the person that took the picture is part of that group. And until we figure out what exactly is going on, we have to plan that they may actually be planning a school shooting. We can't set back. Not to mention it'd just be unethical if we just said, that's a joke. Can't do that. Cannot do that. We would not do that. I would not allow it to happen. I got the information from our SRO about it, and I said, you find them. Find all 3 of them, and you find who took that photo, and if you don't have them by 10 o'clock, you let me know. I'll get everybody out there to help you. And he had them 20 minutes later, he had all 4 of them. And it was a joke. I don't know what the school done with that child. They took the picture and put that on Snapchat saying that. The 3 kids were actually completely innocent. They didn't know the picture was taken until it was thrown on Snapchat. But I can't afford. I mean, not to mention I have 2 children at high school. I know a lot of people that have children at high school that I would consider a great friend. John's son, same class I'm in, and my son's in. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't stop there. Everybody's got kids at the school district. I care about it. Part of my responsibility to help keep them safe. I mean, it's ridiculous out there. But there's a lot of things that go on that people know about that they don't call us or tell us about because they think they're bothering us. We're here for you. We're here for whatever we need to do. And I understand, Pastor and Assistant Pastor, there's some there's some restrictions on what some things that you can tell us, but I know there's also binding statute that says, depending on the circumstance, that you have to report.
First responder, yeah.
So,
First reporter.
It's just the fact that there's some things we may not find out about, but I know that his best interest is to keep people safe. I know his best interest is the same thing. And I would hope that from everybody, because I mean, if you come across something that just makes you go like, that don't seem right, it's usually not right. And I advocate one book. I don't have anything to do with it. I just happened across it from training. It's called The Gift of Fear from Gavin Becker. Everybody talks about, get that funny feeling, the hair stands up on the back of your neck and everything like that. That's actually your physiological body and stuff in process telling you something's wrong, even if you don't know something's wrong, or you don't see the threat in front of you. It kind of tells you, the whole book describes how that process works within your body. Your body's only trying to protect you. It's just like you start going into hypothermia, it takes all the blood away from your extremities, puts it in the core where it belongs to help keep you alive. There's a process that will make you feel that funny twinge or whatever that you associate with fear. And that's why I called the book The Gift of Fear. Because if you feel fear, there's a reason. Your body's telling you that there's something wrong, even though you may not see it or know it. So it's really good book, really good read. I mean, it's amazing. I mentioned Carl Chin earlier. His book, Evil Invades Sanctuary, is a great read. That's all Carl has dedicated his time and efforts to now, is to document and think of ways to protect church women. It's wonderful. He's a really great guy. When faced with danger, you must do something. Theodore Roosevelt said this: in a moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing is the wrong thing. The worst thing that you can do is nothing. I love that quote, because it just rings true for the whole ALICE program. It rings true for me as being a law enforcement officer and everything. I mean, it's a good quote. But your survival is paramount to us. The last thing I want to do is come into any building, wherever anybody's at, and have to work a mass casualty incident. Now, I can cope and I can understand with weather-related incidents and things like that, because that is completely out of my means to grasp. That's the Lord working to work however He sees fit. When evil and shooters and things like that come into places and do things, I take that personally. That is just ridiculous. There's no rhyme or reason. I said it earlier, I will never understand it. I went over a little over just about an hour. We usually try to keep it 45 minutes. I love talking about this, and I love answering questions. Pastor did say earlier that if I don't have the answer to the question, we talked about it a while ago before we started about getting our way through that. But if I don't have the answer to the question, I will find it and I'll get it back to you. I don't know everything. I have taken this on, like I said, about 7 years ago, and I live for it. I love it. I love getting that word out there. I taught my first place to teach was school district. Faculty members talked to the faculty at the college. I ended up teaching the whole entire college for 2 years, and they obtained an instructor. We have taught the school district ever since. We teach it every year. It bounces back and forth between grades, but we hit the faculty every year because faculty come in and they leave and stuff like that. And we have subs and things like that. The students get it on average every 2 years. Keeps it fresh. We have a lot of transient students come and go back and forth. We hit the school as hard as we can because statistically it's been schools where this happens. Happened this morning in a school. It happened in Kentucky, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen here. And I am extremely on edge when people say it'll never happen here. It'll happen here. I may not live long enough to see it happen here, but I'll bet you it'll happen here. And that's, like I said, I'm not going back to the gloom and doom thing. Statistically, it's on the rise. Yes? Oh yeah, we're going to bring the microphone around to whoever has questions so they can keep the recording going.
You said that you were at our facility yesterday. I saw you there actually. And you've walked around, you've seen our facility, you've met with John, you kind of know about our security system. How do you think we're doing as a church right now, and what can we do to improve?
As far as church goes, you're ahead of a lot in this area. I know my jurisdiction. As Pastor mentioned earlier, I can only teach ALICE in my jurisdiction. That's ALICE restraints and their requirements. We found that out because we went outside our jurisdiction. You guys within Ark City and the surrounding area right here of Ark City, and I say that because we teach the schools, IXL, C4. We still just say, it's part of the school district. They're in the, your church is doing a lot, and you're way ahead of everybody. I go to the LDS church out south of town. I am the only person that's carrying a firearm during church because church rules say that only law enforcement officers can carry it. I have several people in the church that have a concealed carry, and I would trust to carry. They're not allowed to. As I say, you guys are really doing well, and you have the openness that you understand that it doesn't create an issue. It may solve an issue before it even happens. But as far as having a security team put together, the new cameras and everything around the building, the understanding that something could happen, asking us to come in, I was telling them earlier, third church in the city to ask for presentation to ALICE. We've had one or two more that have asked, but they have not committed to bring us out. You're far above, beyond, and ahead of everybody else because you're putting things in play to protect your congregation. As far as improving on things, like I said, to improve on things, John and I talked about this at length last night. It's really going to come down to money. And that's what the school district had to look at, was money. Because when we first implemented it, we got through it with them, they asked, what can we do? You need to figure out how to lock your buildings down. Well, that's going to take a lot of money. You want to keep the kids safe, it's going to take a lot of money. You want to keep your faculty safe, it's going to take a lot of money. They made the decision over years and they did that. There were classes at the high school that when we went through lockdown drills and things like that, just to prepare them so they would have an understanding of what they had to do to lock down, teachers had to go out in the hallway to lock the classroom. Well, if the shooter's just down the hallway, I'm not going outside to lock the door and then try to get back in. And then we found out that half the locks in the upstairs didn't even work. Okay, so you just barricade it, you pile everything that you can in front of it. That's the best you can do. When we started Alice in the school district, the middle school had no locks on their interior doors whatsoever. No classroom had a lock on the interior. The only ones that had a locked door were the doors on the outside of the building around the perimeter. Remember the ones that I told you? That's the middle school's biggest flaw, is that they block the doors for the adults, block the doors. Now at the high school, it's students and adults. But it's money. To answer the question as simply as I can, Jackie, it's money. It's how much money that the church would decide or want to put into doing more. Now the initial thing, the cameras is great. Talking with John, I mean, you need more cameras, yes, it's money. If you want to completely get it where you can monitor everything going on, of course it's cameras and it's money. That all equals money. Just having the camera system you have right now is awesome. And it's already helped us solve an incident at the police department. And it's great to know that it's here. It's great to know that it's here for you. And it's great to know that they can sit there, got it on your phone right now? You can look at it on the phone, it's got an iPad over here. They could be anywhere in the building, they could be at home, they could be watching it and know what's going on. The other the biggest thing that you'll run into, and I talked to John about this, the pastor as well last night, the biggest thing you're going to run into is the fact that you're going to find out that people are upset because you're changing things that don't need to be changed, haven't been changed in years, and you're inconveniencing them because they can't go in the door they always went into. They have to walk part way around the building and come in another door. School found that out. Good testing ground for that because it was just that. That's the biggest thing. You inconvenience me. Why'd you do that? John already told me a story about one of the congregations. Well, you're not going to lock that door. Well, yeah, we are. We're just going to have to give you a key to it, so. Because otherwise, it'll probably be what? It'll get locked. Somebody will open it for him or whatever and leave it unlocked, and your building is not secure. But the best thing you can do is harden your target in any way, shape, or form that you can. Locking doors and everything like that. Locking doors after service starts or whatever. You can't lock all the doors. You may not be able to lock all the doors, but the doors you do lock, the only thing you have to do is retrain the people that come late.
Not to come late.
Not
to come late.
Right. If you know the joke about the Mormons, but we run on Mormon Standard Time. That's usually 5-10 minutes late. Ask my wife, because she's never on time. But that's the way it is. People come late, and they have always known that they can walk in the door over here. Now, you all know probably, the door down here, when you get inside that door, you're open to go a lot of places. And John talked to me and expressed his opinion. I agree with it. I think that would be one of the first doors that I would secure. Or maybe not secure until after services start, but have somebody there if it's secured until a little bit after services start. And then retrain everybody not to come late, or that they have to come to a different door to get in. But then you're inconveniencing them. It happens. Sir, do you have a question?
I was just going to ask if you had any anecdotes of successful defeating incident before it actually developed and went too far.
There are some out there. You usually don't read or hear about them because they don't make big news. We've had a few incidences at the high school where people have talked on Facebook between friends that they were going to do a shooting, or they were going to hurt so-and-so, hurt so-and-so. They had a list that they were going to go down through, how they were going to hurt them, Some incidences was explained, some was not. I feel that we've stopped a couple people from getting hurt. There are success stories from across the nation. 2 years ago it was a college campus in San Diego. I know this because I met an officer from that college campus at the FBI Academy. She said that they were able, as the gunman was coming up towards the building, an instructor ended up attacking him, taking him down with a gun, and other students helped that instructor, and ended up saving. They didn't know what he was going to do at the time, but you don't come to a place where there's a lot of people with a gun just to show it off. I mean, you're going there, and then there's several success stories out there, but it all hinges on one of the last slides that I showed, that we get the information. Texas was a good reactionary ending to that incident in November in Texas, because there was somebody that actually stepped up before law enforcement got there and attacked the guy. I mean, they took the fight to him. It's not what we'd advocate, but he had the firepower, and it was in Texas. I mean, do a whole lot of crazy things down in Texas and get away with it, right?
Amen.
Amen. But there's a lot of success stories out there. You don't hear about them because normally they don't make news because nobody died. You can it can be researched and you can find them. It's just hard to research because the first thing that you can research and the way to find them is news media. And like I said, not all of that's legitimate or accurate. And if it's not a big story that there is a shooting stopped, there may only be one outlet in the city that picks it up. But it does happen. It does happen. But it's all about information and getting information where it needs to go.
You mentioned about the uniformed officer that came to a lockdown place.
Yes.
What about somebody impersonating? If you haven't already seen the shooter and they come in a uniform, and not all of us know all the new officers anymore. So what's the situation there?
If an officer comes to a lockdown door, he will not be alone. It won't be one person to get people out. Our protocol is this: if we go down a hallway that has 6 doors locked on it, and we feel that there's somebody in it, we will not go back and try to make entry into that room to get those people out until we know the whole entire facility is secured and there are no more threats. And then when we go back, it won't be one officer, it's going to be a multitude of officers. It'll probably be actually a SWAT team that will come down that hallway and clear people out. But you won't have a single officer coming to a room. You should not have a single officer coming to a room by themselves to evacuate people. Because we will leave you there, that if 4 of those 6 rooms are locked down, we're going to leave them secure until we know we can secure the whole facility, and then we'll go back and worry about getting into them. Because we may not know that there may be a hostage situation going on in there. We rely on information coming to us to tell us that, but it may not be told to us. But the reason we do that, once we clear that whole hallway and we say we have those 4 doors that are still locked, we will still have somebody monitoring that hallway, meaning keeping eyes on it. And then we'll clear the rest of the building. We'll methodically clear the rest of the building, make sure there are no more threats. Then what we'd probably do is actually bring staff in, and probably janitors, to go through to make sure that there are no explosive devices or anything like that planted. Now, if we have good reason to believe that the person just walked in off the street, we go back and look at video that this guy walked down the street and come in, that he had no prior access to it, that limits the fact that there may be explosive devices planted. But you never know. And we don't know what's in the building. I got to walk around and look at places that I've never seen in the building before and I didn't know exist, but I still don't know what belongs and what doesn't belong in those rooms. So once we get this facility secure, we would actually come back through with somebody that knows the facility, make sure that there's nothing like that, and then we'll start evacuating those rooms that are still locked up. Because I'm certain that there's probably going to be communication going back and forth with those, and if they're locked down and secure, we can secure that hallway and know that we can keep threats coming from this way to that way. We will keep it secure and leave it there. The only thing that will change that is if somebody in those rooms tell us that they have an injured person that we need to evacuate. And we will rely on that coming from inside the room. Because then we know it's a matter of minutes to get them out, get them to EMS, wherever they're staged at, to get them the help they need. But it should not be one officer coming to that doorway to evacuate that room after the incident happens. Right back. This side door.
Well, as far as a church, what we have read in the news many times or seen, in the media, there's been times when a person has come in to the sanctuary of the church where people did not even see them. Let's say they came in the back of the church and came in and shot people in the sanctuary. Right. It's hard to see how you could go through that kind of training in this situation. I mean, what would be the safest way or the safest practice in a situation like that?
If somebody come in the sanctuary on a Sunday morning, they're going to come through one of those two doors there, and they're going to be restricted until they get out here to this one side. The only thing that I can say is that the people that are not immediately in that line of fire have to make one or two decisions. Do we try to evacuate, or do we try to counter this guy with some way, form, or fashion? I can give you this. I know Brian and John will wholeheartedly understand this. There's a study that was done back in the 80s, I believe, maybe early 90s. And there's a process that we all go through. Everybody goes through it every time they go to do something. You get up in the middle of the night, you'll get a drink of water. You do this process. It's called the OODA loop, O-O-D-A. You observe your surroundings, you orient yourself, you decide to do the action, and then you do the action. Statistically showing a person alert, not under the influence of anything or anything like that, cognitive thinking right then and there will do that whole OODA loop, that observe, orientate, decide, and act in about 3/4 of a second. How long does it, if you get up to go get a drink of water in the middle of the night and stub your toe on the door frame, how long does it take you to get to that drink of water? You just interrupted that whole OODA loop to get to that drink of water. The only people that train to get past that are high-level operators, and I'm talking, what they have shown is SEAL team operators, Delta Force operators, high-level SWAT operators that really train to get through that interruption and go through that fire. If they're intending on making that shot, that nothing will obstruct them or stop them from making that shot. Anything happening around them just happens. Everybody else on the face of the planet is interrupted. Now, part of that is if somebody comes in and starts shooting, yelling, or anything like that, or with a knife or anything like that, if they come in that door, the first thing they have to do is they have to observe their surroundings. They have to orientate themselves where they come in and where the rest of the room's at, where everybody's at. They have to make that decision to shoot somebody or take shots, and then they have to shoot. Let's say a second. Let's say, because that person's probably not in their right mind. It's going to take a second. The first time that we interrupt that loop, no matter where it's at, it takes them a full second to get back on board and start going again before they pull the trigger. So, thought process is this. If somebody comes in that door and all of a sudden everybody starts to react, they may get a couple of shots off. Books flying at them, hymnals flying at them, purses flying at them. Depending on where the security team's at, there may be bullets flying at them. That interrupts that process, and they have to start all over. Every time you interrupt the process, you gain a second on it. Does that make sense? Because they have to start all over to make that action before they can pull the trigger. A whole second. That's a lot of time, especially in a gunfight. If you can continuously interrupt that cycle, you can defeat that person even with a firearm. That person that has a firearm, you can defeat them if you can keep interrupting that cycle. Because the majority of the time what they're going to do is if a book's flying at their head or something like that, they're going to start doing this. Okay? That's fine because they're not doing this. Or if they're looking away or anything like that, hit them in the face with a book, you're going to stun them for a minute. And that's one of the ALICE videos. If you get on ALICE Institute, they have a bunch of videos on there. They did a training down in the school in Texas, and they knew what was going on. The students did not know when the shooter was going to come in. He was going to come in with a plastic gun, and he was going to click it as many times as he could. He comes in, and as soon as he comes in, the book started flying at him. They broke his nose, blacked his eye, and sprained his wrist, taking him down to the ground. Because everybody just did active. I mean, they just started throwing things, and they rushed him. Now, a person with a knife, if somebody comes, let's be honest, somebody comes in this building with a gun to do harm, is somebody going to get hurt?
Yeah.
Somebody going to die?
Probably.
Maybe. Can I stop that? Can you stop that? 100% can you stop that? No. But we have to do everything to mitigate what happens after that. If they get one shot off, we got to do everything that we can do to mitigate them getting the second shot off. We actually got to do whatever we can do to mitigate the first one. But if they get in that door and they start shooting after that first shot, we got to do everything that we can to mitigate and stop that second one and everything after that. Now, the majority of these people are not trained fighters. They're not trained marksmen. They just aren't. I'll tell you this, dirty secret for law enforcement. Law enforcement officers, studies been done several years in a row and everything like that, police involved shootings and everything like that. Law enforcement hit about, I mean, you're looking at cumulative numbers. Law enforcement hit their target about 20% of the time. Why is that? You can't answer.
Adrenaline.
Why is that?
Adrenaline.
Part of it?
Moving target.
Pistols are inaccurate.
Moving target. Pistol's only accurate as the person behind it. Because I can guarantee you can lock that pistol in a rest and at 25 to 30 yards, that thing will hit dead on every time. Unless you buy just a piece of junk. Moving targets. Moving targets where? Both. Because the law enforcement officer's moving, we're taught, what we taught, we stand still, we die. We need to move. We're usually reactionary with the firearms because it's at the most inopportune moment. It's at a traffic stop and all of a sudden it comes out the window. But law enforcement officers statistically hit 20%. Now, if you did this piece of information that came out of the studies that the ALICE Institute did, from all the shootings involved where a shooter got into a school where there were people locked down, we've seen a video of what they do when they lock down. What do you think the percentage was of hits from the bad guy?
Probably over 50%.
80%.
Wow.
Why is that?
Stationary targets. Stationary targets.
Stationary targets and a big target, right? Because we just pulled everybody into the corner. So the target's not one person, it's 20 kids stacked in a corner, sitting down with their hands on their knees. Can they effectively do anything in that position to protect themselves? No. That's why lockdown is still a tool, but it's times of the past. It's just times of the past. To answer your questions?
Well, I still have a question in my mind. If we do have certain men in our church that carry guns, and people start trying to react to that shooter, it's going to be difficult for that person to shoot back at the shooter. with people reacting. And some of us know that we do have men in our church that carry guns. So it doesn't seem like that would be too good a situation for somebody to fire back at them.
John and I talked about this a little bit last night. And like I said, I know a lot of the training that Brian's been through, but since he went to KHP, I mean, he's been through even more extensive training I have no knowledge of whatsoever. But I know that he has been a tactical operator for a number of years with the KHP. I know John's had extensive training with firearms as well. We talked about last night that to get insurance coverage for the church and everything like that, that there's training that they can do. Those of you that shoot, if you have a gun in your house and you haven't shot it in 10 years, you're probably not very accurate with it right now. And that's the whole problem. That's my concern about carry concealed permits, is the fact that you spend 8 hours in a classroom, maybe 30 minutes on the range shooting. Because the only thing they really prepare you in that carry concealed class to do is to understand how much trouble you can get into and get arrested. They go over all the laws and everything else like that and grant you permission, go forth and carry your gun and shoot when you feel necessary. But they don't teach you how to shoot. Our guys go out, we shoot at least 4 times a year. I advocate to them, you need to do more because you're carrying a device on your hip that you're counting on to save your life. And shooting is a perishable skill. If you don't use it, you lose it. I trust that with training and the right etiquette like I said, I keep going back to John and Brian because I know them. I have no doubt that you're going to put somebody in there that's just going to be a wild gun. I trust the fact that they know when they can get to the point where they have to shoot. Brian is trained basically the same way I am. If I see gunfire, no gunfire, I'm going to gunfire. And if there's people between me and that, that's a problem. And until I have a clear shot on the person that I intend on taking out, I'm not taking a shot. So depending on where they're at will depend on their response. And that's something that they will put together for the security group and whoever else may be carrying. And you may be right. You may have somebody in here that's carrying open. And I know some people that run around town that carry open that don't go to the gun range but maybe once or twice a year. Kansas law is the fact that they can carry whenever or wherever they want to almost, with a few exceptions. But the ones that are here that you're entrusting with the security group and everything like that, I feel confident in the fact that they know what they're doing, when to shoot, when not to shoot, and everything like that. So I know the 2 of them have been through that training and have possibly been put almost in that shoot situation before. But it's going to be the fact, myself, and I'm not going to answer Brian, John, or anybody else, myself, if the target's in that doorway, if I don't have a clear shot on him, I'm not taking the shot because I don't want to injure somebody that doesn't need to be injured. What I'm going to do is get as close to that guy as fast as I can to get the shot on him. Because I know the fact that the closer I get to the target, they're easier to hit. And we also, the ALICE program has some training for law enforcement. It's called raid or solo tactics. It's what we teach the officers to go in by themselves. A long time ago, they called them warning shots. We don't fire warning shots, we fire distraction shots. And that's saying if he was in that doorway and I had it clear, I knew that I could put rounds into the wall here. If that person knows gunfire is coming at them, they will be less likely to continue their gunfire because most shooters that go into places are not going to look for a gunfight. They know that we're coming. That's when a high percentage of the time, like I said earlier in the program, they'll kill themselves. They'll commit suicide because they did not come there for a gunfight. They came there for a specific target or they came there just to get, and it's sad to say, the best kill ratio.
Since most of us, a lot of us know who do carry here in the church, if something like that happens, wouldn't it be the best for the rest of us to get down and out of the way so that they could have
it? It would be. And that's if gunfire came in and I had no protection, with no way to protect myself or anything like that, I'd get as low as I could. But not everybody's going to do that. They're going to try to stand up. They're going to try to see what's going on. Some of them, like I said earlier, have never been around gunfire, doesn't know what it sounds like. May stand straight up and just look around and say, what is that? Honestly, it'll happen. But yeah, that would be the best case scenario, is that everybody that doesn't have a form or way of protecting themselves immediately right in front of that person comes in that door, everybody over here, whatever, it just gets down to mitigate them getting hit. But you won't get everybody right here to get down. If John and Brian are in the places that they're at right now and church was going on to make them in that door, I mean, not everybody in the section, just because of reaction and everything like that, not everybody's going to get down. Some will, some won't. And that's why I say that's a decision that they'll make, a decision that I'd make. Fast as I can, I'm going to them. I'm going after them. It's happening right here. It's not the fact that, like I said, we don't advocate and counter that you go hunt the gunman, but this is not like going to hunt the gunman. The gunman's here. It's time to do what we can to take him out. And if that gun, then by all means, we're going. Because he's right here. If he's down the hallway, okay, let's get everybody out. Let's look at that door and wait for somebody to come through it. Because the person that comes through it, if they got the gun, they're coming here and it's time to counter. But you get everybody else out. That makes sense? But the best thing to do like that, to take them in, I mean, you got to do something. If it's getting on the floor and trying to get out of the way of gunfire, then that's what you're going to do. If you have a hymnal in your hand and you can throw it, it's time to throw it. Warm up that arm and get going. Any other questions? Comments? Too long, too short, too much information, not enough, want more, want less? We usually teach the schools on a couple-hour program, depending on what we're doing. Of course, you cannot teach a kindergartner, kindergarten senior. Sometimes the attention span's the same, but most of the time it's not. So we have a program, and that's what I talked to John about last night as well. Thank you, Pastor. We have a program, the ALICE program. We teach from kindergarten up. It is all age-specific and age-rated. We know that a kindergartner or first grader is not going to have attention span over about 30 minutes. Basically, what we go over with them at that age is stranger danger. We reinforce it with the fact that there may be gunfire, loud pops, things like that. But we keep it at an age-specific level, and we teach it up through the grades. So, I mean, it's out there, it's open. If we come in and teach, that's fine with me and Jason and I. Jason Legleiter, if you know him, he is the other ALICE instructor at the police department. I'm right now trying to find somebody else because being in administration, I don't have a whole lot of time to do it. I try to make it whenever I can. Jason intended on being here tonight. He apologized. He got sick over the weekend, and he has the flu, so I kicked him out of the office today and made him go home because I didn't want it. I don't have the flu. I talk like I got the flu. I feel like I got the flu. They told me I don't. It only has pneumonia, so it's just something else just to add. Now, I'll take a personal note. A couple of years ago, I got sick. I was in the hospital for 45 days. I had just moved into a neighborhood beside Jackie and Robert, and I told the pastor last night, prayer quilt that was made from the members of this church hangs on my banister. The only time it's off the banister is the month of December when my wife wants to put lights on it. Other than that, it hangs on that banister, and I look at it every day, and I thank you very much for that. I didn't know everybody, but Jackie and Robert presented it to me and gave it to me. It was just something that got close to my family, and I appreciate that. And that tells me the fact what type of people you are, and I know there's been religious wars since the days of old. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me where you go to church. If you're going to church, you're looking for something good. There are some people out there that get away from that at times, and that's when we have our issues. But the majority of the people who go to church are doing something good and looking for something good, and I appreciate that so much. because it means a lot to me, especially coming from this church, that you guys do that for me. Not half of it, less than half of it know me. And I appreciate that my family does, guys. So thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?